Good day, everyone. Welcome to the lesson 2 of personal development class. So for today, we are going to discuss about developing the whole person. What are the things that we need to consider in order for us to be a developed person, in order for us to become a whole person? Last time, we discussed about self-concept, your actual self versus your ideal self. And we also enumerated the skills that you need to acquire and develop in order for you to become an effective individual. So this afternoon, you need to self-assess. What are the aspects of development that you need to consider in order for you to become a whole person? The first thing that we need to assess is our physical self, your physical self. When we say physical self, these include the height, the weight, how will you describe yourself according to your facial appearance, the quality of your skin, your hair, and any description of body, such as your neck, chest, waist, legs. Anything that talks about your physique. Next is intellectual self. So, how can you assess yourself according to your capacity to learn and create, the general amount of knowledge that you have acquired, the insights that you have, how well can you solve problems, how well can you reason out, how well can you defend yourself? So that is about assessing your intellectual self. How about emotional self? What are the typical feelings that you have? Do you know it? What are the feelings you seldom have? How about feelings you try to avoid? Do you have something like that? Or feelings you especially enjoyed? Feelings from your past compared to the feelings that you have in your present. So that is the things that you need to assess in your emotional being. Next is sensual self. What sense do you use most? Sense of sight, hearing, speaking, smelling, or touching. So what is the importance of knowing your sensual self? In what ways do you let information in and out of your body? What sense do you usually use in order for you to acquire new knowledge and skills? Do you learn faster if you use your hearing? Or do you learn faster if you will just read something? So something like that. Next is your interactional self. So when we say interactional self, this is knowing your strengths and weaknesses in intimate relationships and relationships to your friends, to your family, to your classmates, or even with strangers, because we cannot avoid the fact that we will, along the way, we will meet strangers. So how well can you evaluate or assess yourself when it comes to interacting with other people? Okay, next is nutritional self. Yes, it's important. How do you take care of yourself? How do you nourish yourself? What are the foods you like? What are the foods you dislike? And what do you like and dislike about your health, your nutrition? Going deeper, you also need to evaluate your contextual self. So what is contextual self? This is how you behave in different contexts. drawing on appropriate learned behaviors as necessary. For example, how do you behave when you are with your family compared to how do you behave when you are with your friends? How do you behave when you are at home, or how do you behave when you are at school? Are there any differences? So that is your contextual self. It's how you behave in different environments. How about a spiritual life or life force? So you also need to assess or evaluate your feelings about yourself towards organized religion and a spiritual connection to others. Do you believe in religion? Do you belong in any religious organization? Do you have a concept that there is someone who created you, that there is someone to worship? What is your feelings about spiritual development and history? So, those are the items that you need to consider and assess when it comes to spiritual self. So, in order for you to assess yourself, let us do this kind of activity. So, in a piece of paper, you need to describe yourself according to the aspects of development. Now that you have evaluated yourself, now let's proceed to a more or broader discussion about aspects of self. The self-concept is represented by several aspects of the self. This construct believes that context activates particular regions of self-knowledge, and self-relevant feedback affects self-evaluations and affect. A deeper look on the different aspects of self can identify specific areas for self-regulation, stability, and improvement. It's very important for us, especially for you at your age, to have this self-concept, because this is where you will begin assessing and knowing and discovering more about yourself. So in a nutshell, an individual is composed of three basic but very different aspects of the self. The very first one is the physical aspect. These are the tangible aspects as they relate to the body, your physical appearance. The intellectual and conscious aspects as they relate to the mind, and the emotional and intuitive aspects as they relate to the spirit. So all these three aspects of ourselves work together in perfect harmony when attention is paid to all three simultaneously. Okay, our physical, intellectual, and emotional goes together hand in hand. So we need to pay attention with them equally. Many individuals, but the problem is that many individuals put a strong emphasis on the physical aspect of the self because that's the obvious, that's the tangible, that's what people can see easily. More time and money is spent on enhancing the physical component than either of the other two aspects. But it does not mean, however, that the body is healthy or strong. Okay? It doesn't mean that when you put your attention too much on your physical aspect, it doesn't mean that the body is healthy or strong. The body provides a place to house the spirit and the mind. It is maybe important to some that their mind be prominent and well educated. Yes, the mind is important as it is part of the self that directs to other two aspects. The mind, our mind, learns what to do, okay, and communicates the information to the body and the feelings. So what the mind believes, what your mind believes, your body manifests, or your body will act on it. And the emotions feel or respond with. People store both healthy and destructive thoughts and beliefs and respond to life circumstances in the most prominent manner. Why? Because the mind provides access, creativity, and serenity, which are necessary for such processes like prayer, forgiveness, acceptance, and passion. So that's why it's very important to nourish our mind as well. And the third aspect is the emotion. The human emotions are the most feared aspect of the self, as individuals are reluctant and unprepared to manage them. Do you agree with that? Managing feelings is like trying to hold water in the palm of your hand. So it's hard to hold a water. It's hard to control the water in the palm of your hand. They are elusive and deceptive. Emotions are deceitful. A decision made under emotional stress and strain usually impacts emotions negatively. Diba? Sabi nga nila, it's hard to decide, or as much as possible, do not decide when your emotion is unstable. Do not decide on something if you are angry. Do not decide on something if you are very, very sad. Why? Because negative emotions that are not managed are stored and repressed. That's why there are people who experience repression. Repression is destructive to a content self, since all feelings, not only negative ones, are stored away. When someone is being repressed, parang bigla-bigla na lang siyang sasabog anytime or anywhere unexpectedly. Accessing feelings when they are needed now becomes difficult, leaving the individual numb and hopeless. Let's have this example. A girl realizes that she is giving much attention on the physical aspects and less attention on her intellectual self. In this way, she can discover how much money and time spent maintaining her physique and its consequences in her grades. By this honest evaluation of herself, she can plan effective actions to improve her study habits. She can start seeking for help and for related books in order for her to read or browse articles to help her improve her study habits. So there are some people who find it hard to balance the three aspects of the self: the physical, the emotional, and the mental aspect of the self. Because there are a lot of times, or there are some instances, that we focus on the physical because we think that this is what other people can see easily. So this is what I'm going to develop. But we do not know it is hard to be a developed person, or it's hard to be a whole. It's hard to achieve the wholeness of ourselves if we set aside the other aspects of ourselves.